Good evening again, everybody. How's the sound level? Okay, thank you. My name is Dan Blitzer, and I'm a member of the board of the Designers Lighting Forum, and it is my great privilege to welcome tonight's speaker, Charles Pavarini, who's going to talk about the dramatic effects of lighting. And I can't say enough about Charles, so I'll only say too little, which is that he is a board member of the Designers Lighting Forum, has 35 design awards at last count, and among other things, has been the leader in the effort to produce the Beacon Awards, which will be next year's design awards sponsored by the Designers Lighting Forum, our first one, and it will be different than all of the other lighting design awards available in the metropolitan area, and as far as we know, elsewhere in the United States. So I urge you to look forward to that. And with that, Charles, one thing I'd like to just say before we get this. My memory is not what it used to be. So, this is our last event of this season. And for those of you who've been with us multiple times, I'd like to thank you very much for your continuing support, and I hope it's been worth your time all the way through. We do intend to open next fall with another series. For those of you who missed some of these, you may see some familiar titles or content. For others, it will be new. We have some very exciting ideas, and I look forward to seeing everybody then. And with that, Charles, they're all yours.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the New York School of Interior Design and to the Designers Lighting Forum. When I graduated from the New York School of Interior Design, the first organization I joined was the Designers Lighting Forum. 2 years later, I joined the board, and I've been on the board since 1935. Tonight we're going to look at how light creates drama in an interior. And good lighting can illuminate a room, but special lighting can make that room have a dramatic effect to it. Most of us here, I would imagine, are interior designers, and lighting is critical to an interior design. I personally use lighting as a design tool, not to illuminate a space. I use it with, and as much as I look at color and form and materials, I look at lighting when I'm designing. Dramatic lighting always has light and shadow. And I think it's how we not only harness the light, but how we also look at shadow. Light is a source of illumination, whether it's natural light like the sun or artificial light like our lamps and what we see here tonight. And shadow is a prominent aspect of any type of lighting. In the beginning, there was nothing, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. There was still nothing, but you could see a lot better. That was a quote from Ellen DeGeneres. My background started in theater. And in theater, I learned and really realized the power that light has. And here you could see how the light is piercing darkness. And the light is shining so that it makes us focus on what we want the viewer to see. This is natural light coming into darkness. And also with light and shadow, in dramatic lighting installations, we have to consider natural light, because every room has a window unless you're doing a basement. Even then there's a window. How are value and color affected by light? We need to see. Without light, we would not see any object or landscape, especially according to Ellen DeGeneres. We shape emotions with light, and that's what our interiors do. When you walk into an interior that is well lit, it causes an emotional response. Once a subject is illuminated, what we see is influenced by the way light hits the forms, which creates a certain arrangement of darks and lights, whether it is a shiny material like a metal or a matte material. Light will make us see that form in a certain way. The color and strength of the light, which influence how colors appear and how harmonious the look is. This is a rich color palette, and it is intensified by layered lighting. LEDs do that for us, and without LEDs, we would not see the creative lighting that we're seeing in our cities, in our interiors, etc. And LEDs can produce light and color, specifically any color in the rainbow, and simultaneously turn the hue and intensity up for down or up for a room. The color and intensity makes the focus of a room. This is an interior on steroids. This is very, very dramatic. It is dramatically lit. And if you notice in the ceiling, there are even crystal elements dropping from the ceiling. Drama in lighting does not have to be within a dark room. It could be a light room, as we're seeing here, and this has many layers of light. We're seeing the cove lighting, we're seeing sconces, down lighting, lamps, etc. And the key to any successful interior lighting is to layer the light. There's ambient light, which is general illumination, task, which is specific activities, and accent light. And I think when we talk about drama in an interior, we're talking mainly about accent lights, what we want the viewer to focus on. Layering light to create a dramatic effect. Hard light creates sharp, defined shadows, while soft light diffuses, creating gentle transitions between light and dark. So it's very soft. Both have their place in storytelling, and light is a storyteller. Hard light can be dramatic, emphasizing contrast, while soft light can be more flattering and easy on the eye and easy on the emotion. Here we see a room that has drama to it, and most of that drama is due to how it's lit and what the designer wants us to focus on. Different sources of layered light reinforces a dramatic interior. This interior has many elements of lighting in it. It's just not illuminating the room, but it is creating a sense of emotional feedback from the viewer. This is a very clean interior, but I feel it's very dramatic because of what the designer has made us focus on. There's a lot of pinpoint lighting in here. Clean and subtle layered light enhance the architecture of the room. Highlighting areas of focus, articulate the light, creates visual stimulation. And this, I feel, is a beautifully lit space. And it also defines the boundaries of the room, the walls without having to have wall washers, etc. I think it's good. Considering natural light in interiors. This is a very dramatic interior, but when designing this, you had to take into consideration natural light coming into the space. And when you have natural light, you have to consider that the room or the space is going to be seen in the evening when there is no natural light, and that's where we need to implement artificial light, and also in the daytime, the natural light coming in and how it mixes with the artificial light. And I think that is one area where designers really focus on, is how is the natural light coming into the room. And that is designed in many different ways, just not in rectangle windows that we're most accustomed to. Interiors are both used in the day and the night, but even in the day, the power of light can transform a space. Artificial light augments the room and reinforces the play of natural light. I feel that this space would look similar when that window is dark, because the interior lighting is very intense and very focused. This again is a wonderful room, but it has an enormous amount of natural light. So when that natural light is a black window, because when the sun goes down, our windows become black elements unless there's natural or artificial lighting outside. This is, again, seeing how light, natural light, integrates with artificial light. Again, this window would be black in the evening, but you could see from the depth of the room that there's lighting that transitions from the dining room into another space. Candles have always been part of lighting, especially in dining rooms. So when designing a dining room, one needs to think of how that room is going to look with dimmed lighting and to enhance the experience with natural candlelight. Intense color too. Light defines space and how it is to be used. This interior really specifies how the different elements in the room are used and how they're lit to be used. Much of the drama of a room will come from the interior design. So if you have a great interior design, just don't let that go. Light it so that it enhances the room, and use lighting as a tool. Good lighting will augment features in the room and the architecture of a room, and can add enormously to the dramatic effect of a room or space. Light versus shadow and darkness. A couple elements is contrast from light to shadow to darkness. the intensity of the light, the lumens, the color, the Kelvin of the light that's being used. And with LEDs, we can change the color of the light to enhance and augment the materials in the room. And the envelope, which every light source has an envelope. All of these recessed lights, there's an envelope in the ceiling that is housing the light. A light fixture like a chandelier, that is the envelope that holds the light and allows us to see through that envelope. And there are hundreds, thousands of materials and elements that create an envelope. It could be a sconce, it could be a floor light, but that light source has some type of envelope to it. And then the quality of the light and the focus and the beam of the light, because now with LEDs we can focus a single beam on an aspect of an interior. This I'm going to show you shows lighting as we're seeing it, and this is through visual comfort. And visual comfort, they shield eyes from unsightly glare, minimize view of the light source, and ensure light levels match the desired mood, because lighting does create mood. Now watch this room transform from poor lighting to what I think is really great lighting. And I think with the LEDs, now we are seeing recessed lights that we don't have to have these big openings in the ceiling, that the opening in the ceiling to realize light can be as small as 1 inch. So here's another example. And then we see it lit in a proper way. Light fixtures, the envelope of decorative lights. There are so many out there. And by choosing one that really accentuates the flavor of the room, and not only do we have a central fixture here, but we have lit the bookcases so that it's almost like a backdrop for the chandelier. And it also, on the ceiling, that wash of light, the uplight, also gives us a clue of the architecture of the room. This is a light fixture by Zaha Hadid. And she has taken the concept of architecture, lighting, design into a totally new realm. Nothing that she does has a straight line to it. She's called the Queen of the Curve, rightfully so. And thinking of the envelope of lighting is a very different manner. How the lighting is presented in an envelope which holds the light. The drama in this room, I feel, is really the light fixture. And it is not just hanging below ceiling plane, but it takes your eye and makes you go up into the ceiling. And there is a cove lighting around the ceiling, but I think that is really secondary light here. I think the main focus here and the drama of this space is that light fixture. Also, you need really high ceilings. This again is another example of a well-crafted interior with an unusual light fixture. The bookcases again in this room subtly create a backdrop for the room and also assist in the verticality, expressing the height of the room. within the bookcase, and then there's a mesh over the top of the bookcase, but that was not forgotten. That was also lit. So we continued that verticality when we're viewing this room. Unexpected light creates drama. And lighting designers carefully consider subtle but strong emotional aspects of lighting, which are profound and impact every moment of our lives. Lighting is around us. We cannot get away from it at all. It's natural, and with the artificial light. We feel it when we see a well-lit room or even a poorly lit room. It does something to our perception of space. And many of us go into a room and sense there's something not quite right about the room. Usually it is the lighting and the lighting source. Light pierces the darkness to allow pattern to become visible. So this was totally a black space, but by the lighting, it creates pattern. So with light, and especially with the linear lighting that we now can work with, we can create drama as we're seeing here. Lighting and drama is all about the contrast between the dark and the light and creating shadows and really enveloping and making good with the shadow within a room. This space is sparsely lit, but that cove in the ceiling is creating a light that is showing the architecture of the room. And that cove, the ceiling is curved and has detail in the ceiling. Also, the unusual fireplace. And there's only one lamp in here other than the cove lighting. But again, a very dramatic interior with minimal lighting. To be dramatic and have a drama in a room, you don't need an enormous amount of lighting, and often to get that feeling of drama, sometimes it needs to be, we need to take away from the light and create and embrace shadow and darkness. Light creates interest in any room, and it's up to the interior designer, and in many cases, the lighting designer that is also on the project. And if you have a project that is intense and has great architecture within the room, I highly, highly suggest that you look for a lighting designer or a lighting consultant. And that's a great way to learn about lighting. I worked with a lighting designer consultant through the Designers Lighting Forum for years. And I've done Kips Bay 6 times. And she was always there to help and to bounce ideas off of. And I really learned a lot from her just working with her. And that's part of how I learned about lighting. Directional light allows for dramatic hallway. And here we could see that the lighting is from the floor. That's very unusual. And usually a hallway like this, there would be a cove in the ceiling along that hallway, and the lighting would be coming from the ceiling down and washing and grazing the wall, usually evenly. But lighting does affect and show material and the texture of material. So if you have a textured wall, what's dramatic is to light that textured wall so that you can really appreciate what that material is. There's a great dramatic interest in lighting from the floor instead of a constant strip of light in the cove. Also, this hallway is balanced across from it with lighting that is coming from the ceiling to light the painting, which you have lighting coming from the ceiling and from the floor. This is unexpected in a hallway, creating a dramatic effect. This is 3 photos of an entrance foyer, and it has layered lighting again. There's sconces, there's recessed light, but what's really unusual is there are pilasters, architectural pilasters throughout this hallway. And what has been done is, again, with a very tiny opening in the floor. It is lit from the floor, which not only lights the pilaster, but it lights the transom across. The verticality of light accentuates height. And when we talk about cove lighting, we've always thought of cove lighting as a cove between a ceiling and a wall. But cove lighting is just a pocket where you would insert light. And here, this is vertical coves. And it accentuates the height of the room. It also enables us to appreciate the panels and the texture on the panels. Here, this is lighting architecture. If you have an interesting room, whether it's just crown molding, or it does have pilasters or panels on the wall, it's really terrific to be able to light that and accentuate the architecture. The prominence of lighting in Baroque oil paintings, before we even had electricity, they were exploring with light, especially in the paintings. Here you could see that the paintings, especially the one on your right, is showing candlelight. The one on the left is just an imagination of lighting coming into that painting. Picasso, he explored painting with light, and he's famous for his abstract figures with light. It's said that the father of Cubism is also responsible for the shedding light on this popular technique of painting with light. And here, Picasso is actually doing one of his figures in light. This is a sculpture by James Turrell, and he's an American artist known for his work within the light and space movement. He is considered the master of light. This is an opening in a wall. It is concave, and it is programmed that that light changes, and it subtly changes within probably 5 to 10 minutes in different colors. And this is a project that we just completed in Jupiter, Florida. And if you've ever seen any of his exhibitions, he usually lights an entire room in this fashion. He had an exhibition a couple years ago at the Guggenheim, which was extraordinary, that you can't even imagine the lighting that and how he makes you focus with the light, and the emotional sense when you walk into one of those rooms of how you are feeling about the light. Shielding light and the source of light creates drama. Here, this is a fixture. The lighting is inside of those flat bands, and it creates a sense of drama with the light. This is a standing lamp, which we're shielding the light so that you see the form, but then you see the light behind it. Again, shielding light can become very, very dramatic in an interior. And having drama in an interior, especially as interior designers, it's the fixtures that we choose to enhance and support the feeling of the room. Many, many fixtures like this are in the marketplace. This room, it's a kitchen, and this is layered lighting. However, most of the light, as you can see, is coming from the ceiling. But we have the shelving, which we have LED shelving light, and the back of this room has a pocket, and they're lighting the drapery, which I feel is very interesting. And again, not typical of a room, and we see it in a different way, a different manner. I had to put this into the presentation. I was just in Vegas and visited the Sphere, and one of our board members was one of the lighting designers on this project. And the Sphere itself, this is the interior lobby, and we could see that it addresses the darkness by adding color and light, and lighting in a different manner, a different fixture to illuminate. But was really extraordinary within this space is they had 5 robots, which I had a conversation with. Unbelievable. Again, lighting fixtures are critical in creating drama in an interior. Here we see the scale of the light, and it takes your eye up into the space. This is this is a bedroom, and this is by Zaha Hadid. And Zaha Hadid, in illuminating her interiors, she never used suspended lighting, any type of a wall-mounted fixture, which she felt would disrupt the flow of her architecture. So there are many pockets in here, or coves, that she is and has always used recessed light. You never see a light fixture in any of her interiors. And you know, the question is, do we feel this is layered lighting? I feel it is, because we are seeing lighting from the ceiling, from the walls, from the floor, from under the bed, etc. And she has produced some of the most amazing architectural buildings and designs. Very, very unique, like the fixture that I previously showed you. Lighting techniques to add drama and dramatic lighting into your home. Add the fixtures, a chandelier or a fixture, that is critical, and that is really up to the interior designer to specify how that fixture is lit. That's where you need to talk to an a lighting designer, so that that light source benefits and enhances your interior, especially materials. Now with the LEDs, we can play with the color of light, so it will enhance the color within a room. Some lighting will take like an orange color and make it look muddy and brown if the color temperature of the light source is not correct to bring out that natural color of the fabric. Accent lighting. Accent lighting, as I've stated, is critical in dramatic lighting because that's the light source that makes us focus. And it makes us focus where we would like the viewer to see. A sculpture, a painting, a cocktail table with a spotlight on it. Cove lighting. That is another way to enhance dramatic lighting. Dimmer switches, and the DLF just had a symposium on controls. We also had a talk here in the fall on controls. That is really critical. I find that one of the most difficult aspects of lighting is how do you get a dimmer to talk to a certain light source. And if it's not compatible, there will either be a burnout, something would happen to it, or it just won't work. Enhance architectural features. Many of the photos showed how to enhance and to pinpoint architectural features in a room. And I've always said, if the room does not have an architectural detail to it, make your lighting become that architectural detail. We looked at that in that hallway with uplight. That became an architectural detail. Very simple, very smooth, but it became a vertical, and that was because of floor lighting. So if you don't have architectural details, think of how your light can become and enhance the room to have a sense of an architectural detail to it. Play with contrasts. That's what lighting is all about in a room. We light certain areas, but to illuminate the entire area in an even sense of light washes out all sorts of detail. Really good lighting embraces shadow and embraces darkness so that there is a rhythm to the room instead of all one level of light. And that could be done by different lumens in fixtures, etc. And create focal points of interest, like the spot on a cocktail table. And always leave a lasting impression with your room and with your lighting. As designers, I think that's what we strive for, is to leave the room so that it's memorable. When the viewer leaves the room, there's a certain element that they remember about the room. And usually that is a lot to do with the lighting, because lighting will make us feel good. Lighting also now is very, very strong in wellness. And that, I feel, is due to the LEDs and how we handle the LEDs and how LEDs can create circadian rhythm of lighting and wellness for how we feel in a room. This is an Italian room, beautiful classical architecture, and in a room such as this, it's hard to go into the room and start drilling into the ceilings and putting up sconces, etc. This is lit by the chandelier and a couple lamps. And I think it's beautifully lit because it really enhances that ceiling. But that fixture, I'm sure, was really looked at to benefit the architecture in the room and to allow that room to be lit well. That's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? Yes?
Are they actually two different colors, or is that just the photograph?
Are what two different?
On the bulbs on the chandelier. Some are reading very white and some.
I think that is due to the actual shade. And if the shade is like a natural skin, the light will burn the skin and discolor the light because of the shade itself. Yes?
Hi. First of all, I can't even say how beautiful is your presentation and how well you talk about lighting. I find this really exceptional, so thank you so much for that. I'm a new lighting designer. I studied at Parsons. I bought your book, like I said earlier.
Thank you.
And I have a few questions that are a bit more on the technical side, which would be advanced lighting controls. So, for example, to set scenes like, you know, Lutron.
Is that mic on?
It is on. Oh, you don't hear me? I'm sorry. I'm going to try to speak louder. Do you yourself specify lighting controls, for example, Lutron or Control 4 to create scenes? Because like in many examples that you showed us, the lights need to work together and be dimmed at different levels to create these beautiful scenes, maybe one during the day and then another one at night. So I'm wondering if you, in your work, you do this yourself, or you work with somebody who works with you to create, to use these controls and create these scenes. So that's question one. And question two is, do you systematically use mock-ups or visualization software like the AG32 or 34, to understand how a project is really going to be working?
To answer that question, if the lighting scheme is intense, and I light my interiors, I don't specify all of the fixtures because I'm not a lighting designer. That's not my forte. But I know how I want the room to look and what I would like people to look at when they're viewing a room that I've designed. So if it's really intense, I will call a lighting designer or a consultant to work with me. And when I work with a lighting consultant or designer, I'm asking them to come assist me, not impose another lighting scheme that really is not in my wheelhouse and what I've imagined. And if the lighting is intense, the lighting designer will do a mock-up. And then we'll review it and see if that lighting is what my intent was. So as far as fixtures, I know basic, I'm not a lighting designer. I'm not a lighting consultant, but I design with light. So in that sense, I do get the help of a lighting consultant. As far as controls, again, if it's beyond what I can imagine or do, I will work with a lighting consultant on that. And you know, when we're talking about controls, we're not just talking about a dimmer switch with a slide on it. Now we have very complicated ways to control light and whole home systems. The smart home, which controls the natural light coming into a room with drapery shade and shades, etc. But again, I feel more confident working with a professional than trying to figure it out myself, because at the end of a design, I'm responsible for what's going into that interior. And I want to make sure that when the client goes and flips a switch or works a control panel, that the lights work according to how it was designed.
Great. And here's a question right here.
Yes, this has been a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a particular slide earlier that was in a room that was naturally lit with a fireplace that had a glimpse of the fire in it. And I was looking at the ceiling, because the ceiling was, yes, I was looking at the color of it and the room. I deal with commission fabric. And so my concern with light is that it does reflect against the materials and bounces off of it. So my question to you is, when you're designing with light, are you also, if you were to work with a material designer, are you also taking into consideration how the light talks, the conversation between the fabric and your lighting? If that couch was, let's say it was like black velvet, it might be an argument. But if it's, so I'm wondering, how do you work with, let's say, choosing materials that work with your light, or do you come into rooms and just primarily deal with the light and then everything else would be, you know, work? Like, what's the relationship with yourself and material?
When I design a room, I don't design the light as a separate entity. And I would specify the materials that I felt will best enhance the space and have the look and feeling that I'm after and also the client's after. You know, it's their home. When I'm done, I leave. So they need to be on board with that. But when we're specifying materials, I don't specify it necessarily for how the light's going to be cast on the material. I would design the room, and then in the same process, I'm looking at how I would light the space or what I want to be illuminated in the space. And then we specify the lighting according to that. So I have a diagram on my book that I did a Park Avenue penthouse, and I laid it out, designed the furniture layout, and then with a yellow magic marker, I would draw circles of what I wanted and where I wanted light to be. Paintings, oriental screen, just ambient lighting, etc. So it's really a hand in hand. I don't think that lighting interiors is successful to design the project without thinking in the same process of how that light is going to enhance the interior.
Fabulous, Charles. Truly, truly fabulous. Could you go back to what I can't help but think of as the armadillo slide? That's the one with a really dark background and the curvicue lighting. There you go, you passed it. Yeah, so maybe it's not. Question for you is, are those panels actually in 3 dimensions, or does the lighting create the illusion that these are scales on the back of the armadillo?
It's an illusion.
It's fabulous, totally fabulous. Thank you.
This is done by dark body. Is that what it is? Black body? They were in Soho. Black body, and they mostly dealt with OLEDs, but this is LED because of the curvature.
Very nice. If you would go further back to one of the visual comfort transformations for a moment, could you talk about how you would conceptualize the preferred lighting approach to this space? What would cue you to thinking about where the light would go and what it would do, if you will, the beginning of the process to the result that you showed?
Well, first of all, I would have the floor plan and know where my furniture is, where the focus is when one is sitting in a piece of upholstery. And here, a architectural feature is that fireplace. So we could see it. Let me get past this. Well, maybe not. No, it doesn't do that. I don't like to use recessed lights that much in interiors. I think they cause severe shadow with those, because right now you all look aged. We only have one source of light here other than the screen, and that's from above. That is one of the worst lighting, especially in a bathroom. But something like this, I would look at the elements within the room that are architectural and how would I light them without doing lamps. We've already done sconces and we have a couple lamps there, but sometimes that's not enough, and that's when we would look at doing recessed lights. But these are very tiny recessed lights. Am I answering your question?
In essence, in this particular example, you put the preferred sources of light, those that light faces and create visual interest, first, and then figure out what's left.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then with the lighting scheme, I would first look at, I want to light the fireplace wall because that's a major feature and it gives height to the room. And the sconces, they light that side of the room, etc., the fixture. And then where there is deep shadow, I would do a recess.
Great, we've got a question over here.
Wonderful presentation, thank you. For an interior designer that may be approaching a dramatic effect in their first home, or maybe jumping into it, are there particular rooms that you would focus on first, or do you try to carry drama throughout? Like we saw living rooms and hallways, we saw bedrooms and kitchens even. Are there particular areas you think are more approachable to add drama than others, or places you'd suggest they start?
That's a very good question, Sean. I would, if it's a first homeowner, I would ask them, what space will you entertain in? Will you have family gatherings in? And what space would you use yourself? you know, the couple or the family. And that's usually family room and living room, and then next is kitchen. But I always think that a master bedroom should be extremely dramatic and have controlled lighting, because a bedroom needs to also be a very sexy, sensual space. The kids' rooms, I would wait until they're out of college.
Oh, question right here. I have a microphone for you. It's better if you it's for the live stream.
Hi. I just wanted to see, do you want to dramatize the bathroom?
Could you speak louder, please?
Sorry. The bathroom lighting, would that call for dramatic lighting? Just instead of-
Dramatic light in a bathroom?
like in the showers, besides the...
With showers, I personally don't like overhead light, especially if you're showering with somebody else. You both look terrible. There's different ways to light a bathroom and a shower. What I'm doing recently in the past couple years is I'm doing a recess in the shower itself, and sometimes I'll just light the back wall with a graze of light. The light doesn't have to be, you know, a ceiling light in your face. It could be very, very subtle, but still light the space. And sometimes I'll take and do the entire shower area. But cove lighting is a great way to hide lighting without seeing the source of light. No matter what I'm lighting, I don't like to see the source of light. I like to see the effect of the light on what I've designed. That's, the focus is not on the source. It's on how the light emits on what I've designed. And dimmers, dimmers, dimmers.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Rose.
Just wanted to tell you I've really been enjoying your book, and I have to say it is the one. You go through lighting books, and there's a lot of them who are either very design oriented or very technical, and I compliment you that it's a great balance between both. You go there for technical information, but you find some inspiration, or you go for inspiration and you find the technical information to do that. So thank you. You might want to tell a little bit about your point of view on your book for those of them
thank
who don't
you.
know.
You know, I looked at, well, I always look at designers' lighting, and I think a show house is where designers really showed their design muscle. And sometimes I'll walk into a beautifully appointed room, but the lighting is so horrendous that I can't get my emotion into the room because the color temperatures are off. You know, this bookcase lighting's really white, and then they have, you know, amber light and a lamp or something. And when I kept on seeing that and looking at, well, I'm not going to say magazines, because magazines do not like designers to turn the lights on, which I have a problem with, because that's like saying, as a magazine, I'm not going to look at the color in the room. I'm not going to look at the texture in the room. Light is part of the entire scheme. So I'm against turning off the lights and photographing a installation. But I thought I need to let interior designers know more about lighting, and to have interior designers use lighting within their interiors as a design tool. And the book has some technicalities in it, but I didn't want it to get overly technical because I know interior designers, you read something that's too technical and you're falling asleep. So I tried to balance that, and the book's written where it's more gentle and more like a story rather than a textbook. Am I answering your question?
Charles,
Yes.
for those who don't have the book, how would they get a copy?
The book is on,
Well,
What's it called?
Won't we be having a book signing here in the fall or in the future with you, Charles?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
The name of the book is Lighting Beyond Edison, Brilliant Residential Techniques in the Age of LEDs. And the book is basically about LEDs and how interior designers can use LEDs. It's very confusing. You know, what is the color? What's the temperature? How do I use it? What is the, the envelope of the light? And I've written the book so it's per room, so you don't need to read it from the beginning to the end, but I hope you do.
And we have a question over here, too. Right over here.
Hello.
Over here, to your right. We're waving. There you go.
Right next.
Oh, you mean this, right?
Thank you so much for your presentation, and I also appreciate the book as well. And went to a lecture previously by you where I was introduced to the Design Lighting Forum. So, but I was thinking of the last picture where you had also these metallic room screens that were catching the light, and so I was wondering.
Was that the last photo?
It was the very last one.
The
yes.
Italian.
Exactly. And it's similar a bit to the question around textiles. I was wondering to what degree you're looking also at reflective surfaces, be it metals, be it mirrors, and working that into your lighting scheme.
What is your question?
Basically, are you looking not only at the lighting, but to what degree are you looking at reflective surfaces and how that plays off the light, be it mirrors or be it materials like this metal or?
A shiny material will cast the light.
Sure.
A dark material will absorb light. So one needs to think about that. You know, if you're doing a room that's all dark blue, you need to do appropriate lighting so that we understand it's blue and not black. So it's in color temperature.
Are you also looking at things like the style, like if it's a gloss paint or a matte paint or things like this in terms of
paint?
Well, just in terms of the surface and how the light is going to play on the surface of things, I guess. Paint finish or.
I don't design a room according to how the light's going to hit a wall or a finish. I design it and then I'll find the proper light to light that. And there's many different ways to light a space.
Well, thank you all very much. I think Charles deserves a rousing round of applause for this fabulous presentation. Very good. Thank you all very much for coming. Please return to us next fall when we will have a new series ready for you, and we now know who you are, so you can't possibly escape all the way through, but we look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much. Nice.
Now we can all look pretty again.
This presentation with the book signing, other than the book.
Be sure to carry out your plates and glassware, please.
Oh, the book is on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah. And the name?
It's under Lighting Beyond Edison.
Beyond Edison.
Could you type?
Yes, I can. I just want to
my living room with with the mirror
Thank you.
and
It's
the
wonderful.
chandelier. And
Oh,
it's
just divine. Thank you
so much. Really.
Literally about 2 blocks over. I'm on 73rd. So.
I'm great.
Yeah, give that to you. We're not walking away with it.